Colin Thomas is here from We Will Fix It and Essential Maintenance Dubai, although he's branded We Will Fix It today.
Well, you know, let's shake it up.
It plays havoc with the images that I use on our socials because you keep changing shirts, so I got to keep changing the colors of things.
Well, if I didn't change it, you wouldn't want me in the ring, let's be honest.
We're talking DIY. In case you're wondering, what am I listening to on this podcast? Although you did look at the title and you did look at the description, so you know, but it's DIY. And DIY is a gigantic subject. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about, freshening things up and thinking about where you're spending your money and how you're spending your money, and the list goes on and on. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm glad we're back doing this.
That sounds quite focused, James. Now, let's be honest to our listeners. Never once have we ever ended up doing what we've written in the notes.
Well, and last podcast is a great example because we've pulled those notes over to this podcast because in the last podcast, we got right off track right from the start.
Yeah, we literally did nothing, did we?
No.
The only thing on here that we actually did was a shed update.
Yes, and I took that off the recent notes, but then you just said, I've got a shed update, which means we're down to the last hour.
No, we're not.
Oh, but you only had 4 hours.
No, I had 4 hours, then we got to 2.5. That was 2 episodes ago, right?
Yeah,
and then I spent 3 hours doing that 2.5 hours of work, and I've still got 2 hours of work left. So yeah, it's going really well.
Hold on. How do those maths work?
Oh well, this is the new. Well, actually, that's probably pretty accurate for DIY projects, isn't it?
And this is something that it was funny because we did talk about the fact that I sanded my outdoor table that we eat on, and my wife said, "Oh, I can't just sand that down." And instantly, I'm thinking, okay, this is probably 30 minutes work that's going to take me 2 hours. And and she's going, this won't take you very long. And I'm looking at my watch going, yeah, how long do I have? And then, of course, once you got started, I realized, I better go get another mask on because this is quite dusty. And then I got to, you forget, I'm going to sand it, which might take half an hour, might take an hour. Then you got to do the cleanup.
Do you have to do sundown chairs as well?
Yeah.
See, that's the
hard.
thing. That's way more than the table.
Oh, yeah, those are hard.
Yeah, but I don't think you have anything like 2 hours. I think it's more like 5.
Per chair?
No,
I'm just talking
for the project.
I'm just talking per item. Like the table took me about an hour.
And what were you using again? What kind of sander?
I was using just a vibrating sander.
Okay, yeah. So
but I probably needed to have,
wasn't it? You did say
I probably needed from the get-go the coarser sandpaper to start.
That's the key.
And I had medium grade, so it took me a little longer.
Yeah, see, that's something that I really recommend to everybody, which is if you're going to get into it, then get into it.
Yeah.
Because you can always, it's really easy to use something like a 60 or an 80 grit initially.
Yeah.
If it's really bad, go to a 40, but make sure you're gentle with it because it's gonna really be quite
and
aggressive.
that's what I needed to do. Go to a 40 and then do a top coat with something a little bit finer.
Yeah, so then I would go from a 40 to like a 120 somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And the 120 you can do really quickly because you've taken the worst of it off
Exactly.
and you're just smoothing it off at that point.
So anyway, but back to the topic, it's timing. So the shed has gone through, we're in the last mile for finishing the shed.
I hope not, because that's it's a really enjoyable undertaking.
Are you prolonging finishing the shed because you don't want it to end? Is this a whole
maybe
psychological manifestation going on here?
There's definitely a little bit of that, without a doubt. So this week, we were coming back. I can't remember where we were coming back from, and I realised that I had nothing for like the next hour and a half. And there was potential here to carry on. And what had actually happened, it was an odd one, because I'm using a really good penetrating surface for the shed, and also I'd sanded it quite well. What I found was that it literally all soaked in. So at that point, it was just a little bit of variation in colour, and also I wasn't totally sure.
You had your daughter doing the middle, you were doing the top and the bottom.
Yeah, so it's the preservative. I couldn't get that word two sentences ago. I think you probably worked that out. Yeah. Anyway, I'm there now, it's preservative. So it was only 2 of the 4 sides that needed it, which is always bizarre, isn't it?
How is that?
Yeah, I know, it's just different absorption. Also, I think because the sunlight previously had hit it, these two, that it basically meant that they were just a little bit more porous than the other two that sealed up really nicely. Also, it didn't help that I only had in the house these really short nap rollers.
No, but you like the short nap rollers.
I do like the short nap rollers, just it takes a lot longer to be able to do it because you can't get as much onto the roller itself, which means you're constantly backwards and forwards, which probably was part of the reason why I was doing a third coat. So and then Ruby was wanted to come and join again. And I thought, oh, this is great because she'd done 3 hours with me on the previous session.
And did she, true to form, stick through for another couple hours?
No, 10 minutes.
No. So why'd she lose interest? What happened?
I think I'll go in now, Daddy. Well, because she'd already done the project, and also if you imagine the first time that you're doing it with the whole colour change when you sanded it,
it's fine.
It's quite dramatic for her to see the difference. When you get to the third coat, and really not that much is that different, you don't get that same sense of satisfaction when you're 7.
Then it's labour.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I was absolutely fine with that. Bless her. She'd done an incredible job with me. I'd really appreciated the time. And so I literally just bashed it out, those two. And so now the one side that is exposed to the most sun is absolutely sorted. The front door, unfortunately, is a 4th coat, so I've got that to do this weekend, hopefully, if I can find some time. And then I've got to still do a couple of trims, take off a little bit of the felt, and actually I'm putting another felt strip on. It's sealed, but there's just another felt strip to go just over the peak. And then I suppose it's kind of all done. I'll find something else to do. But then the other thing that I need to make a decision on is for my table and chairs.
Yes, because give us the background here. So because a lot of people have these kinds of issues. You bought some nice wood furniture, you've moved around a little bit, you're looking at that furniture, you've maybe been staining it, you maybe haven't been staining it, but now you've got to make some decisions. You're not so happy with it. Do I turf it or do I, give another refinishing? And that's kind of where you're at.
Well, yes, but it's a quick praise here. I think we discussed it actually on the last podcast. But we previously had another beautiful teak table that every year I teak oiled and sanded down. It was stunning, and I actually sold it for more than I bought it for after 7 years, which was incredible. But this time round, Natalie wanted more of the kind of the faded grey look that teak goes if it isn't treated. So we're now just over a year in, but we've got a little bit of mould or just black mildew.
So we talked about using the pressure washer. Did you do it?
You suggested the pressure washer, and it was genius.
Oh.
So no, I haven't yet. Okay. But I will, because that's just a genius idea.
So if Natalie is cheering you for doing this, then put my name in there.
Oh, I definitely will.
But if she's not cheering,
it's definitely your fault.
Put Dan's name.
No, you're already there. No. I'm not doing that.
Glenn's got a pressure washer in his place. I don't even own one.
After Glenn's comments about Pajeros, everything in this world is Glenn's fault. It's Glenn's fault. Talking of that, you not believe this, what happened this morning. I haven't told you this.
No.
A Pajero almost ran me off the road.
Does he know who you are?
I thought we were the Brotherhood. Actually, it was.
But you weren't driving a Pajero, though.
No, I wasn't. But it just so happened that it was a lady. But she didn't even look. I mean, it was unbelievable. It was one of those that was about as cast iron, her fault, as I've ever seen in my life. And actually, let's be honest, as a bloke, which is, generally speaking, the ladies are more considerate drivers in Dubai than the men.
Absolutely.
Apart from this lady. So I was utterly furious just because the indignation of it being a Pajero is absolutely utterly ridiculous. Right, getting back onto the subject now.
Yeah, so we've had the rant on the
sorry,
Pajero.
I just did that red mist moment. I've got no clue what we were talking about.
So we were talking about your table,
the
teak table that Natalie had decided, look, we're not going to stain. We're going to let it get that nice worn wood look, that driftwoody feel.
But then we've got this kind of mildewy. Yeah. Well, it's not mold, it is mildew. And so my plan now, after what you said last week, is I am going to hit it with a pressure washer. And I've got a really nice K7 Karcher in the office that needs a good workout. So we'll do that. But then also, because of the way that it is weathered, it's actually at the moment where it is the table itself and the chairs that are most exposed to the sunlight is gone to a really nice grey colour. Oh, but the back of the chairs is still the original. So
no, that looks weird.
Yeah, it does look weird, but that's the problem. It could look really cool.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It just looks weird. So I don't know whether or not I could rotate the chairs around. And then I'm hoping when I hit it with the pressure washer, that shouldn't have any effect on the actual colour itself. then I'm thinking maybe that I leave it until next year before actually putting some preservative on it.
It's a good idea.
But again, trying to find a preservative, I think I'm going to use cuprinol this time around, which has got it's a penetrating stain, which also you can get one which has a fungicide in it as well, which could be worthwhile for this.
See, that's exactly what you're looking for.
Yeah, but the most important thing is Natalie hated the yellow effect that you get with teak oil.
Yes. So
this, I know because I used it on the inside of the shed with a sprayer, which was, I mean, it uses like 4 times as much. And to be honest, I did, actually, that's not true. I did have full breathing apparatus on.
Yeah, but you need.
But still, it wasn't sealed particularly well. So I had to be a little bit careful with that, to say the least.
It's when, that an indication of that sort of process when people are painting the outsides of their homes here. And often someone will come and fill the cracks and do whatever, and then they get the sprayers out, and you can smell it for 2 kilometers away.
Oh, yes.
It's like, and then sometimes you see the guys; they're not even wearing breathing protection.
I know.
Just maybe a little mask, but they need full filters.
A cloth mask will not do that without a doubt. Well, no, I had a full filter mask on, but actually it didn't fit particularly well, and because I was so determined to get it done, I did inhale a bit, which was stupid of me. Yeah. So, lesson learned, especially as I'm qualified in health and safety, I really should be
you shouldn't be admitting this.
Yeah, I know. But, we all make mistakes, and I certainly done that occasion. But the same stuff, I think, should work really, really well on the table. But again, always, as ever, you need to use it on an inconspicuous piece first.
Try it out. So, and then when you're going to do this, you've got to do it, A, not on a windy day, B...
I'm not going to spray it. I'm going to roll it this time. That's learning from last time.
With the
which will be perfect, actually, this time round to use those short nap, because this is really thin anyway.
Okay, easy.
So that's the plan, But we'll spray it first and then see what kind of happens. And what I might do is do a half and half. So because the table is suitably grey already. Yeah. So once I've hit that with a pressure washer, maybe I can actually just do the table initially, because I want to keep it at that level rather than it degrading any further. Yeah. Wait for the chairs to kind of grey off a bit, and then do those at the later stage. You don't look convinced.
I don't look. I think you're going to get hit with. You've only done half the job.
I'm going to get hit with that no matter what, Joe. Come on. Doesn't matter. It's just the subject area that changes. This is normal marital life. Always in trouble. It's only the subject matter that changes.
Okay, well, that sounds like a good project, which leads me actually on to a follow-up from last week.
Okay.
So again, we haven't hit yet what we've got on our notes, but that's okay.
Okay.
So your shed, and you alluded to this, and this was actually part of the notes, but your shed is located in the front of the house.
Correct.
And you've got white stones around it.
Yes.
You've also got in your property, you've got nice tile work. You've also got artificial grass.
Yes.
And do you have any actual grass anymore?
No, not at this place.
So in your last place, you had some actual...
Loads of grass.
So you've had all of essentially the ground covers where you live, each of them requiring different kinds of maintenance and different kinds of installation and what... Based on all of those, you want to walk me through some of the choices and some of the pitfalls for, say, putting down stone, and I saw someone put down stone, by the way, and they didn't put anything under it. They didn't put any. Oh,
no, you're kidding.
And I watched them doing it, and a year later I'm going, and you can see stuff's coming up. And you may think we're in the desert.
Well, it's not just that, it's support for them, because you give it another
they start falling away
in all directions.
That's exactly what happened, and it just looked horrible to the point now they've given up. And they've just...
Well, they gave up the day they put them down, to be fair. It's so let's start off with pavers and that kind of thing. Yeah. For me, this is an utter no-brainer. It's granite. Right. There's nothing else that I can see for lots of different reasons. So your options would be something like a sandstone, first of all. Mm-hmm. Sandstone, give it 4 or 5 years, and it starts to flake away. When it starts to flake, it's done. There is no way of getting it back. It's still just going to be horrific. And because it's natural... once it does start to flake, it flakes at different rates on one particular tile. And my last place was exactly like that. It degraded so far there were holes in it.
Why does it degrade so fast? I would have thought that it would, they've put sandstone on buildings forever.
It had been down, it had been down for a while, and I'm sure there are grades of sandstone. Which is part of it. Also, because it was quite close, the areas that had really degraded were quite close to the natural grass, which therefore meant that it was getting wetted 2-3 times a day. So that would definitely have had an effect as well. there's also, we talked previously about sealed tiles versus unsealed tiles. I'm absolutely in the unsealed camp, and that's as a father more than anything with small kids. And also with, we have a pool in ours as well. So the issue is just down to, well, no, it's not just down to, but a large part of it is whether or not when it's wet, it is still safe. And we've got both. So we've got sealed granite and we've got unpolished granite.
And so going back to the sandstone, you wouldn't go back that route?
No, definitely not.
Even though it might be cheaper.
That was already down before we arrived in the last
And it's fairly
place.
economical, the sandstone.
Oh yeah, it's miles cheaper.
But
actually, it's not miles cheaper. That's not true.
Oh.
It is, if you were buying retail and didn't know where to get it from, then like for like, yes, it's cheaper than the cheapest of the granites, which is the unpolished.
Right.
Okay? And they actually do give it a finish that it's unpolished. However, if you were buying retail for sandstone and trade, which is what I did for the unpolished granite, then the unpolished granite comes out cheaper unless you're running a car over it, because then you need 30 centi rather than 20, which is what I've put down in the garden.
Now, would the sale, I'm still in the sandstone here, because would the person selling me this be giving me the line that, yeah, you know what, it is going to degrade eventually, but you can replace it and it's going to be easy?
They will tell you it'll last for 20 years and they're a bunch of liars. And they may also try and sell you the sealer on top. That's a classic. So the sealer that they will supply supposedly sits over the top of the sandstone. They will tell you that it's UV stable. And equally they will say, oh, and it will help with the anti-slip properties and it will stop the degradation. Garbage. Absolute disaster area. Don't even think of it. Yeah. So that's that.
And you can't just pull some out and replace them. It's going to look like dog's breakfast.
Exactly. Yeah, because they all go off color at different speeds. Anyway.
So granite is the way to go.
I definitely think granite's the way to go. The other possibility is one of the composites. So
well, that makes sense.
Well, yeah, it does, but they just look really naff. So you've got either like a cement base, which is the cheapest of the lot, without a doubt. And the problem with that is it looks a bit municipality, you know? I don't know whether you, mind you, I've got obviously the British perception, which is all you ever got was the cement ones. So I've definitely got a bit of a hang up with them. But
I'm just thinking like some of those water parks where they've just poured a big slab and then they've put a mold on top to give it a little texture. That could be, you know, people know this concrete here.
That's expensive.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought that would be like a really affordable route.
No, but now you've got a specialist that's needed to get any of the mouldings in, unless you buy it pre-formed, in which case it's going to be really consistent. And no.
Oh, okay.
So we've got that. What else have we got? Oh, then we've got ceramic as well. Printed ceramic. Absolute insanity for outside. As soon as you get a chip, so underneath the picture that has been printed onto that tile, you've got a consistent ceramic underneath.
And it's not very, I mean, different ceramic companies, different ceramic quality. It's a nightmare, actually.
It's just silly. I mean, they're interior tiles. Whatever you're told, that's rubbish.
And when they crack or when they chip or when you need to replace them, you better have a stockpile because you're not going to be able to find them with the same color or the same anything.
So the key is when you're buying your tiles for outdoor, you look at the side of the tile and see whether or not it is just the image on the front of it or whether or not it goes right the way through the tile. Because if it chips, you want to have that same texture there. That's the basic name of the game.
And you know that they're going to chip. Someone's going to drop something on them.
Of course. It's outdoors. You know, you've got kids, you've got stones, you've got gardeners, whatever it may be. They are going to chip. And they will chip quickly. And the idea is that when it chips, you don't really notice it because that's the whole tile and where it is. Obviously, get a couple of square meters of extra because, again, if you're using granite, you can replace it, and inside a couple of months, it will equally look exactly the same.
So granite's the way to go.
I just think it's a no-brainer. Mind you, that's what I've done, of course. So I would think that, wouldn't I? But we did make an error because the sealed granite is too close to the pool. It was more expensive, and it is slippery as. So the kids, luckily, are brilliant for that, but it's something to bear in mind.
And that slip factor, that's a big one, whether it be in our weather or if it's a little cooler and you get rain and, you know, if you're in the UK, forget it. It's always going to be wet and slippery.
Yeah. We actually, another texture I've just remembered that we had was we had one side, which is it's actually about probably 10 metres by 4 around the side that was block.
Really?
Interlock.
Yeah. Well, that's super popular here.
Yeah, it is. It's super popular here, but again, very municipality. It's out in the main area, and that's what they do. And we didn't really want to have to go all the way around that area. I mean, 40 square metres is a decent additional area to do. Yeah. And again, when you're putting down, when you're putting down block paving, there is no option. You put a cement block down first. If you just
a lot of people don't.
No, and a lot of people don't, and you will regret it. There's just no point. Some people will try and use like a grey grit or something like that underneath. No, grey grit is therefore underneath artificial grass. You cannot use it. There's not enough support there for tiles, without a doubt. There is no option but to put down cement.
They sell it that way. Hard pack, and then we're going to put some
garbage.
Some whatever grey grit and hard pack it, and then put the stones on top.
No, that is definitely not the route to go down. You will find inside a year, they haven't been able to pack it effectively to the level that would be required. It's fine if you just put in a little bit of artificial grass on top, but if you put in heavy tiles on it, it's not going to work.
Especially when you get roots and you get water and the ground shifts a little bit, and then they're all over the place, and you can never get them back.
No, definitely not. So that's not a no-brainer.
So granite.
And then other things. Yeah, stones are a weird one. We had a whole load of stone in the garden initially. So we actually moved.
Do you love it, or are you somewhere in between?
Natalie loves the pure white stone. So we've got quite a lot of that out the back in some of the flower gardens. But again, that looks great in year 1 and rubbish in year 4, but there's no telling it. So again, with that, we put.
Can you just pressure wash it? I mean, you'll move the stones all over the place.
No, because if you imagine, you've still got all of that rubbish in between them.
Right.
And as a result, when you pressure wash it, it just doesn't really work particularly well. But we put a membrane down first, so
that's the key.
Yeah, it is. But again, that membrane goes kind of off colour because it's all white anyway. Oh. And I'm not an enormous fan, but that's a route we've gone down. Out the front, so previously, actually, it's yellow, the cheapest yellow stone that they often used on driveways around about, that kind of thing. We moved all of that from the back garden and we put more on the front. So that's actually what we've got around the shed. And it's all right. It's a bit boring, really, but we'll get around to doing the front garden at some point.
You see the Business Bay crossing right by Jadaff. The shipyards. Have you seen that purple stone that they have?
Yes, I have actually.
There's a lot. I don't know where.
I think that's a glass.
I think it is. I don't know where it comes from, but there is a huge amount of it.
Yeah.
And it's interesting.
But that's one of the awesome things about Dubai. One of the things I really love about this place is it doesn't matter whether it is an underpass, for instance, or there's just a municipality area. They don't just go with bland concrete just to clear the area. They actually do something really creative with it. And that's wonderful. It really is. It does add massively to our city.
And since they irrigate the plants around it, it keeps them clean. Because if you see a part where there's no irrigation, that's the first thing I noticed. There's these beautiful purple glass stone things that collect sand.
Yes, they do.
And that's, again, stuff with stone to keep in mind.
Yeah, it's true.
Whatever colors you go.
Yeah, but
and go with the membranes. The
membranes are definitely required.
Grass versus artificial turf.
Okay, this is a controversial one because I was heavily in the natural camp in the last place. And the reason was quite simple, which I wanted the kids to be able to run around, fall down, and it not to hurt.
Yeah.
No, I've changed my view.
Oh, so you were full grass and now you're turf.
Yeah, if you imagine, I was putting on something like 4,500 gallons of water onto the last property every day. Wow. Now, that was a huge plot. That was like a 15,500 square foot plot. It was enormous. But that's a huge amount of water. And equally, for 6 months of the year, it didn't even look good. Because the reality of Dubai is it's either going to get burnt or it's not going to be the growth season. So you end up in a scenario where you might get 3 months of decent looking grass and the rest of the time it looks rubbish. Yeah. So this time round it was already down, in fact, the artificial grass, and we kind of moved the sections around a little bit. But it kind of works with the dogs and the kids. It's just more practical on the whole. And the stuff we've got down is pretty cheap.
Okay, because there's lots of different price gradients for this stuff.
Yeah, there's lots of price gradients, and also it's how it's put down.
Right.
Well, ours is cheap and hasn't been put down well.
Oh.
So rather than rip it all up, it's good enough. It's something that if I was doing it, I definitely wouldn't have it in a month of Sundays. I would use a better quality, and all the seams would be sealed and things like that, which they're not. But at the end of the day, you've got to stop somewhere, haven't you? And accept it. And really, what it is really good for, things have kind of changed a little bit. The kids are now on their scooters or whatever else.
Yeah, sure.
So actually, they're less likely to fall off them on the whole. And equally, so doing that on grass isn't really going to work. And they can actually do it on the artificial because it's quite a short nap anyway. Yeah. And equally, we've got the dogs to think of, and for them, the clear up is a little bit easier, which is useful, and a power wash off, and we're back where we need to be. So all in all, it works out quite well.
Yeah. Okay. So that's some nice, coverings and a nice way to start looking at them.
Yeah.
To make decisions, and obviously figure out what your price point is and what your price appetite is, because. But
it's also, there's a difference there as well with grass, because natural grass is cheaper to put down. But your maintenance cost is way higher. Yeah. And also, things like just the gardener to cut it. Yeah. Because all those kind of things that at the moment, we've got the same gardener who moves from one place to the other. All right. And admittedly, it's a smaller plot, but he's about half of what he was in the last place, because all he really has to do is the plants around the border. That's it.
Which is excellent.
Yeah, so it works out well.
And environmental. You're not using as much water, so you're not generating as much CO2 because they don't have to desalinate. You're doing a good thing.
Yeah. I suppose we are.
What do you do with your pool in the winter? Because you got a pool. Anyone swimming in it? Is it too cool or?
It is too cold by a long way. Our pool is a bit of a white elephant for us, to be honest, because the dogs go crazy when the kids go in the pool because they think that they're drowning.
Right.
And then
good. That's good. Those are good dogs.
Well, yes, but they are incessant. Okay. So the idea of being able to enjoy pool time is kind of a bit of an issue, and equally. Rolo at least is not particularly keen on water, and Paddington just doesn't even know what it is. So he's the smart one of the pair, not. So it's just it kind of doesn't get used anywhere near as much as it probably needs to. We've got a pool heater on it, and but it takes like 2 days to get it up to temperature. Okay. And
does that run off natural gas or is it?
No, it's electric, and it's 23 kilowatts.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a monster. But even then, it's 2 days to get it to temperature. So it's quite a major power spike to be doing that. And
Joey Woo Woo, my brother, he's got a wood burning stove.
Nice.
But he runs the heater coils through it.
That's great.
And then puts it right in the pool. So he's not using it in the winter. Yeah. He probably could. But in the summer, when he needs to heat that thing up, just put some wood.
That's a nice idea.
Yeah, smoke up the farmland that he lives in.
Yeah, I've got the feeling that's fine if you've got farmland that you live in. In the middle of the Arabian ranches, I'm not sure the neighbours would be overly proud of me.
But on the road heading up there to the desert, there's a lot of guys selling wood, so...
Yeah, but that's to go in the desert with, isn't it? That's not for middle of Sahel and Arabian ranches. Can you imagine the outrage? I mean, literally, I moderate I'm the admin of the Arabian Ranchers residence crew. Can you imagine the outrage?
Yeah. Oh, my bad.
Sorry, that was me.
Yeah, my bad.
Yeah, you're one of those. Outrage of Sahel too.
I can't just imagine it.
We get a few of those.
Yeah.
Half the fun.
Fortunately, it's warm here most of the time, so you get a lot of pool life. What do you do in the summer though? Do you have shades over it? I know you had the.
The sprayers work really well. So the sprayers will hold it
down about 5 degrees, right?
Yeah. So it'll hold it at about kind of 24, 25, which is where we kind of want it to be. Again, the negative of that is it requires the pool pump to operate. I'm kind of working on a little mental project at the moment, which is almost the adaptation of the solar, the solar fountains that are available. I think there's an adaptation that can be done there for the pool, which would therefore run all day, and hopefully it's not going to knock off the 5 degrees that the other ones do. But to get it to a baseline, if I can knock off 2 or 3, then at that point I don't have to have the pool pump running quite so much. But again, it's all theory at the moment, and quite a lot of my little projects like this fail spectacularly. So we'll see how we go.
I want to jump into a little bit of what we actually set out to talk about. That's 33 minutes into the podcast,
how
which
bizarre.
is great. And the reason I'm jumping into this is this seems to be the time of the year where it's a little bit of a down period with folks doing stuff. I'm not sure why, but February is that time of the month where we've lived through things, and now people are looking around. And they're looking at where they live, and they're starting to think, maybe I need to, freshen up.
Yeah.
And that's the big word. And the first thing that I noticed is people head to IKEA, and they spend hours trolling the displays to try and get a sense of what can be done.
Yes.
Which is okay, and you used IKEA for your kitchen.
Yes, we did.
So they've got some great folks there. And you get two groups of people, one that are trolling, and then they're going to get someone to come in and do the work, and the other that are trolling, taking pictures, getting ideas, and then they're going to go home and do it themselves.
What, both of them?
Yeah.
See, here's the one that I absolutely love, which we're obviously on the receiving end, and it's fantastic for us. But what happens is, they go to IKEA, they see it already built, and saying, oh yes, that's me, okay? Yeah. They then find the packages, they get the IKEA guys to lift them on, they then get to their car.
Yeah.
Now at that moment, IKEA man is no longer there to help them.
He's gone.
Yeah.
Nobody's
around.
He's run. Because he knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, and they've got to get them into their car. Now what this does is it breaks their spirit.
Yes.
So they've got them in the car because they've already paid for them. And at that point, it looks like a long distant memory of that built-in IKEA scenario. Okay?
And this is only getting into the car. They still got to drive all the way home and get everything out.
Well, no, this is where it all goes a little bit pear-shaped. So, on the drive home, they have that realization moment, which is, oh my word.
And then the blame starts. Whose idea was this anyway?
Yeah, exactly, right?
Finger pointing stuff.
And then what happens is they get home and they go, you know what, I can't be bothered to do this.
Yeah. Do you know how many people are nodding along with this going, I've been there.
But then you're in the two scenarios, which is they still love it because they've got the memory of it being in IKEA built. Okay. So the other option is, right, let's take it back to IKEA. And then they go, do you remember getting it into the car? So we're not doing that. There's absolutely no way. Oh, but we will then have to get it out of the car to get it sorted. So
then get in the line. At the returns.
Yeah. Oh, we've got all that to do. So what actually happens is this. A phone call comes to us to say, we've got some IKEA flat pack that needs building. Oh, fantastic. Thank you. Yeah, that's great for the phone call. Can you send two guys? Because we need it carrying out of the car. Yeah. So then our guys arrive, carry it out of the car, build it. Now, the other thing that people always think is, for IKEA flat pack, doesn't matter what we've got, it's 15 minutes to build it.
Yeah.
No, absolutely and utterly not. I'd suggest that maybe I've got a bit of ability in the area. I had just one side unit, I suppose, and admittedly, it has something like 9 or 10 drawers in it. It's a beast.
Because you got to build all the drawers too.
Exactly. When you're building all the drawers separately and from the main carcass.
And put the tracks on.
Yeah, tracks on, all this kind of stuff. Right. Well, that took me, and I was working flat out, that took me 2.5 hours to do. If you imagine, with the boys, they probably knock about half an hour off my time just because they do it all day, every day, rather than me, the way that I approach it. But still, that construction time is labour, and we have to charge for that. Yeah. And the difficulty is, quite often, the labour charge will be more than what they pay to actually buy the thing. And then it gets kind of awkward, because then you're like, was that really good value? Hope it was to you, but we gave you the idea of expected time beforehand, and that's where we are. So it gets a little bit difficult in those scenarios.
But like you said, you got the guys who come in, your boys, granted it's going to cost you a little bit more using your guys, but what the added value becomes, they can actually think through the process very clearly.
Yes.
And that's what you're paying for. You're not just paying for the manual labor, you're paying for someone who can actually think about this as they're putting it up, and then they're putting the wall unit up, and they can say, okay, it does come with wall fasteners, we got to put those in too, and they're able to think through that process.
Well, the next one is, it comes with wall fasteners, you don't want to use those here. Because that's the other thing that quite often happens, which is the fastenings that come, and I'm not throwing this necessarily just at IKEA.
Yeah.
But if you imagine, they package on a global basis, so therefore fixings that you would use in other countries potentially doesn't work here.
Yeah.
So again, the guys can adapt and get ready to that if it's something that needs attaching.
Yeah. One of the things I love about going to IKEA is they love to give me this feeling that I can do DIY.
Yes.
And they even have the little section with all the DIY stuff. You know, they've got the basics.
Yeah.
Are all there. Do you think? And I'm not. Again, we're not pointing any fingers in a negative way at IKEA because I love going there. I love walking around. I love buying stuff from IKEA.
Yeah.
Is that toolkit that I can get there? Do you think that is going to get me started?
It's excellent.
Yeah. There we go. There we go.
I'm really positive about their kits.
And good pricing.
I think they're called, aren't they Fixer? That's the range.
Yeah, the Fixer. I think that's what it's called. It's the orange bottom, the clear top, or
exactly. They're really good. They're really good, and they don't break.
Yeah.
And that's one of the great things about IKEA.
They're basic though. It's a basic kit.
It gives you just what you need to do that particular job, and that's ideal. That's the whole IKEA ethos, isn't it?
One of the things I do like about their stuff is the cases everything comes in, so you can just stack them on top of each other, and because a lot of times we're a little bit storage space deprived.
Yeah.
And so
that's why you're buying storage, isn't it? From IKEA. So before you get to that point, yes, they will flat, which is
so basic hammer, screwdriver, basic wrench.
Yes. And it will mean that, if you had all the items, it might be slightly quicker. But it will get the job done, and you've paid 20 dirhams instead of the hundreds that you would need for all the other bits. Yeah. So no, I'm all for them, and those have been tried and tested, which is the other great thing about IKEA. Because if you imagine the hassle for them of something failing, and they have to then do a recall on the quantities that they're involved with, you can guarantee that things are tested properly. Which is the whole reason actually why we got our kitchen from there. Which is we knew that A, it would be tested properly, and secondly, if we had a problem further down the line, highly likely we could get spares from them.
Yeah. How's it stood up so far, your kitchen?
Really, really well. The only thing that was is remotely negative is the kicker plates at the bottom of the cabinets.
Okay.
The corners. In fact, that's the only bit that I think they cut too many corners with, and the end pieces on there, the dogs. Paddington loves to chew. And as a result, we ordered another 4 or 5 from them, and he's gone through all those. So there is no end pieces now, which is frustrating. But they were bad design anyway, so I'm not surprised in the slightest that that's an issue.
We did, and we'll get back to the tools and stuff, but we did a cabinet wrap probably almost a year ago.
I remember.
And
you weren't happy with that at the time, I remember.
There were a few pieces where the imperfections of the cabinets show through, and they still show through.
Yeah.
And the thing, and it's an interesting thing because it's clearly never going to last forever.
Of course.
And a year in, there's a few spots that are not really visible to the average person who takes a look.
Yeah.
But I see them.
I have that issue as well.
And where the adhesive hasn't adhered.
Yeah.
It's kind of given off because of the heat, because of the humidity in the kitchen. And there's really nothing I can do about it at this point. I mean, I've looked at it and I've thought, okay, but
hairdryer?
Maybe. I might go back and do that and then put a little bit more of contact cement underneath or something like that.
I wouldn't.
Oh no, okay.
No,
I mean, what would you use?
I wouldn't. I would literally just trust the wrap itself.
Okay.
Use the hairdryer just to loosen what's naturally on it.
So I might try that with the hairdryer and just see. But aside from that, it's really proven to be nice. The challenge is, and I can see where this wrap works different. So a lot of the kitchens that are just flat aluminum things would be perfect. Yes. And there wouldn't be an issue. Ours was this wooden cabinetry that had, indents in it and a little bit of a design pressed into it, and that's where we ran into the issues.
Is there a sheen on the wrap?
No.
Well, that's interesting then, because you would be minimizing with matte.
Yeah.
And if I had something of that
there's no
scenario,
sheen
I
on
would just literally stick to matte.
Yeah, it's all.
But again, it gets to the stage where it's only so forgiving anyway.
Yeah.
So if you do have significant imperfections, it's not going to cover everything.
I suspect in another year or so we'll get it redone.
Yeah.
And being able to, when they come in to redo it, we're probably not the same folks, because I was really happy with what they did.
Yeah.
But whether it's recovering this or just putting another cover on, I don't know if they can do that or if they'll tear it off.
They'll tear it off.
But in that process, looking and marking the spots, okay, you see what we got to do here, you see what you got to do here, you see.
Yeah.
And I think that'll be a lot of fun. So,
and photograph it beforehand. I would be Chinagraphing the whole lot.
No.
And then photographing it so that next time, this is what I'm holding you to.
Yeah, and so, and I figure we probably got another year and a bit left before, and well, like I said, I'm going to go back with the hairdryer now. That's a great idea, and see if I can't do a few things. But just there's little things, and it's, but it did the job, and I'm very happy with what we got. So,
well, it gives you a massive visual improvement.
Well, that was it.
And that can just change your whole mood.
Yeah.
For us, the difference in how we use the new kitchen versus the old, which is pretty much the same layout on the whole, but it's now, with the way that we've got the kitchen island set up, that we now use for pretty much most of the meals. I mean, we've got a whacking great dining table.
There you go.
That probably is used once every few months when the rest of the family arrives. But it really works. It is the centre of our home without a doubt, and we spend a lot of time in there.
So basic tools you think we should all have? Because I think this becomes part of the challenge with folks. And so the IKEA basic toolkit, why not? Grab one. If you don't own one, get one.
Yep.
Get the fasteners, the other fastener kit that go, there's a standalone fastener kit. Why not? Get it too.
Yep.
But that's a good start.
It's a really good start.
Anything else you would add to that list? Only because, and let me preface it, is because I've heard people, I've got to adjust some cabinet doorknobs or this, and they just go, I got to get someone in. I'm going, what are you talking about? Get a wrench and do it. Oh, I don't have.
Yes.
And so, what would be on your must-have? You're moving into an apartment list, or
definitely adjustables.
Okay.
And if it's an apartment, I would stick to a medium-sized adjustable, so something like an 8-inch. And because that way it's a compromise for everything.
Yeah.
So for the small stuff, you can get it small enough so it will kind of hold okay. But again, it's very easy to over-torque the small stuff with it. It will go large enough to cover all but the most significant, and the maximum you're probably ever going to do is 1/2 inch. So it should be able to do that okay. And if you're needing to do something bigger, you probably need a professional anyway.
Right. Okay.
So that's a good compromise. Pliers, absolutely. I would, we're talking about somebody who's not a DIYer, so I would probably just go with a standard set. Make sure you oil them, please. WD-40, there we go, there's another one. I'll class that as a tool on this occasion.
And the new cans that have the swivel.
Yeah, they're great.
Which is, you can still get the old ones, but I think that's just because they have a whole stock of it, so they're finishing off those, because the new ones are the no-brainer.
Yeah, it is an absolute no-brainer, without a doubt. And that's exactly what I've gone for when I was restocking. What else? So the IKEA kits. Do you remember the screwdriver that comes in that?
Yes.
So it's a black head.
Yes.
There's nothing fancy about it whatsoever, apart from it is one of those ones where you can plow out the blade and that you go from a Phillips to a standard flat, depending on which way you go. So if I was in an apartment and not a DIYer, that covers off pretty much the majority of what I would need anyway. Yeah. So that is a good solution in that scenario. Now, here's the kind of complex one, which is, do you need a saw?
Yeah.
Okay. If it was me, I would probably go with a really small hand saw and 6 blades rather than anything larger. This kind of person is probably not going to. Well, this person is probably not going to do woodwork. It's not their thing. So therefore, getting a wood saw is a bit of a waste of time. But you often find that you just need to saw off a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And when I was 6 or 7 with my dad, that's what I started on. And I could do most jobs with just a little metal saw, a standard hand saw with the metal frame. Yeah. And that covered me for a number of years.
It's
before.
like a hacksaw.
Like a hacksaw. Actually, I prefer the slightly larger ones because they're just a bit more capable. And oddly enough, I literally looked through my stores the other day, and I've got 4. I don't even know how that happened because I don't remember buying any of them. But I've got 4. And I'm like, why have I got 4 of those?
It's one for everyone in the family.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nobody else will ever use it, let's be honest. So, but again, and then also, obviously, I've got like 5 different packs of blades.
Yeah.
Because obviously I need 5 different
You just
packs
never
of
know,
blades.
right?
Yeah, you never know when you're going to need 28 blades.
I think I've got one of those saws. I know I have one of those saws, and I know that I've got a whole pack of blades that I every time I go into the tool area, and I see that saw, and I go, yeah, it's great to have that saw. And it's like, when's the last time I used that saw? But the day I need it, it's there and ready.
Well, here's an interesting one for you. So those are designed as metal saws,
right?
But remember I was talking about the brittle L-section wood that I've used on the trim on the shed? Mm-hmm. What I found was I've got all sorts of wood saws, and I found that they were just too aggressive with that wood. Yeah. And they were kind of chewing at it, and I just couldn't get the accuracy that I needed. So I pulled out one of those mid-size hacksaws, absolutely perfect for the job. And so in the end, yes, it's a metal saw, but it's really fine, so it gives you a lot of control. Yeah. So they do work really well for a variety of reasons.
There's a whole bunch of folks listening right now who are going, I remember the metal shop at school, and I remember leaving the chuck key in the lathe, and I remember my teacher having me hacksaw with a dull blade a 4-inch cube of metal that took me like a week as punishment.
And rightly so, that's lethal.
You never remember, and I remember metal shop, and I remember people leaving that chuck key in. It's amazing we didn't get killed.
We didn't get enough of that,
Yeah.
So we did, what was ours? Craft design technology, they call it, by the time I went through. And which was a lot of woodwork that was brilliant. Okay. But, these days, the kids don't have that. Yeah. My kids don't. They've replaced all of that with the robotics and programming and all that kind of stuff. Which is cool. But there's a core skill there that's been lost, and we will see that in years to come. Now, don't get me wrong, as a business, that's brilliant.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
You've lost that skill. I am that skill. But you know what? For society as a whole, that stuff really has value because, the number of times on this podcast that I've talked about the bonding experience with my kids of doing DIY at home. And it's magic. It's absolutely amazing. And teaching them a skill. And that's what it should be all about. And I'm totally for all the robotics and the programming and all this kind of stuff. But I wish that they were broader in terms of the knowledge.
And that's what we used to do in the scout troop that I was the scout leader of. We would just get the tools out, and because I knew the kids weren't doing it at home.
We did that as well.
And show them how to do it. Also, to this day, everyone who went through my scout troop remarks on the dodgeball games that we used to play.
Oh, yeah.
Because there were no rules in my dodgeball. It's like, you mean we can
we used to call it murder ball.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah. Because they say we can hit people in the head. By all means.
Absolutely.
We can hit them everywhere, like anywhere. I said, by all means.
Yes.
And every scout who went through this thing now, they're adults. And they're going, you run into them and they go, I still remember that murder ball we used to play with you.
Pre-health and safety.
Yeah. And he says, and it was interesting, sir, that you would have us positioned against a wall. And you were always the first person to get to throw the ball.
Well, talking about that family bonding, the oddest thing I was doing, actually, no, it wasn't. It was lovely. I was talking to my dad over the weekend on FaceTime. He's like, I've got to show you the downstairs toilet and the progress that I've made on this. And bless him, he'd channeled out the wall. And, he's a full-time carer for my mum now. And he channeled out the wall and put in all of his copper pipe. And he loves doing copper pipe.
Oh man!
But he does it as an art form. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. So but he
you got to put the flux on there. And then,
exactly, and then suck in
the solder.
Yeah. Oh. So he does it that way, which is the traditional way that all the heating engineers would do it, because those are the cheap parts traditionally. But you just look at his joints and you're just like, oh my word, what an art form, and it's immaculate. And the enjoyment that he gets from it. And right now he needs a little bit of enjoyment. Yeah. But it's so odd that he was, he had me on FaceTime, and now it was me advising him. He was asking for some advice on various bits.
I love it.
Well, it was quite a moment. And I've got to say, it was quite emotional as well, because all those years that he taught me all of the DIY, and, the enjoyment of it as well.
Yeah.
And I was always his little helper for all these projects.
And now the tables are turned. This is awesome. You know what? We're gonna pick this conversation up next week. Next time we're on the podcast, and we are going to get to refreshing the interior of our place, things we can do easily, and of course we'll add a few more things in as well. It'll be a lot of fun. Colin, thank you very much.